My background is rooted in, I would call it the people business. I was told that by Bruce Libman, good guy. The people business is really about two things, a game of numbers and a game of really understanding how people behave and what it is they're trying to achieve. I started out with the mortgage industry back in 2003. From there, I brought a couple of my friends in, one of my best friends, and still is to this day, which is Frank. From there, we have had a lot of experience with talking to every kind of person you can think of. People that are down and out, people that are on top of the world. So it allowed us to really culturally get an understanding where people are and what makes them make better decisions, right? Because at the end of the day, we're advisors and we're advising people to be the hero and starting with making them an expert in their own situation so they can execute together with us as partners in a way to get the best possible outcome. Started off mortgages, eventually went to stockbrokering, pivoted from that into real estate. Ran a team with a bunch of very inexperienced kids to generate off-market deals, right? Short sale deals, real estate for investors. Grew to around 15 to 20 transactions and then was averaging around 25 to 30 with 10 people, right? So we really grew that division. When COVID hit, everything stopped and I was tasked to actually build out a lead generation system, an outreach system in Zoho. And as I was going on, things just really were not to my liking, and I needed to have a much better solution. And that's what drove me to the story of looking into other alternatives. One of those alternatives was me and Frank having our own software developed. And as we were doing that, our vision and everything started to really go in the direction of being masters at campaigns, being masters at getting people to respond, playing the numbers game, and doing it with visibility. So that's where we are right now. Nextier was created, to really sum this up, was created off necessity and at the same time rooted in a lot of experience manually, that now a lot of those principles will carry over to Nextier and our software.
Excellent. So what were some of the problems that really pissed you off with these legacy CRMs that you were dealing with and tasked to create systems for outreach? What were some of those problems that pissed you off to the point where it was like, you know what, we need to go find some tools. We need to do something on our own.
That's a good question. A CRM by design is not meant for modern day cold outreach. A CRM was built in a time with very protective policies regarding technology in general, right? You had Salesforce, which revolutionized the way companies store their clients and their data, right? And I'm not taking anything away from them. Zoho, same thing. These companies are revolutionary when it comes to retaining clients into a database that's very executable. However, what they do lack is, number one, they were built a very long time ago. AI is something where if it's not AI first in the operating system, you are pretty much duct taping AI and trying to play catch up. Another thing is, philosophically, when it comes to lead generation, I believe the lead generation that I'm speaking of, which is cold lead generation, is from the initial message all the way until you book an appointment, right? Once an appointment is booked, it should definitely then go into a meeting module where you do some research, and then also into a deal module, right? It requires a different messaging, a different frequency, a different approach, because you're really systematically manufacturing inbound responses that lead to meetings, that lead to a bigger strategy session, that lead to deals, right? That's the natural flow of order. CRMs don't have the capacity or the capabilities to do that period, right? Ones that do, there's a lot of logic that needs to be layered on top of it, which complicates things, right? So CRMs prevent you from having a lot of the flexibility that if you owned your own tech and owned your own software, you would be able to make a lot clearer and definitive workflows that apply to you contextually that you're not going to need from a CRM. On the other hand of that, we don't aim to replace CRMs at all, actually. As a matter of fact, part of our mission is to make your tools better. So to make your CRM better, right? To make anything that you're using better. That's really what, to answer your question, that's where nothing really per se, one thing really pissed me off. It was just more of a philosophy, and then a lot of the capabilities and the capacity not being able to tweak and tune to your liking.
Could somebody make an argument that for let's say go high level, they could just get a skip tracing service and plug it in, and then get a text message service and plug it in, an email service and have it all in one place in go high level, as opposed to separating these initial outreach and then having a CRM for the clients after they book an appointment?
That's a great point. Another thing that we don't do is we don't try to steer away people from what the best possible orchestration setup is for them. We put orchestration before everything, and we put interoperability before everything. What I will say is, if a client was already using Go High Level and they were using it in a way that was working for them, right? There are a lot of gaps because of the flexibility that Nextier has that we can layer on top of. For example, we have a very robust, compliant, right, messaging template library, right? That is 160 characters. It's already approved. Everything is compliant. And at the same time, right, you can make a lot more money with us also than Go High Level. Go High Level will give you affiliate commissions for your sub-users, which is, I'm not knocking it, but we would be able to tailor something that 9 out of 10 times after we tailor it, you might wind up still keeping Go High Level, but Nextier is going to make it better no matter what, because of what we can add in addition to, I would say, the framework of the platform itself. The platform itself is, I wouldn't say the least of it, but it's also just the machine, right? What a lot of the value we bring is in the managed services, right? Is the guidance, is meeting with you every week to go over numerically what you need to do to hit your numbers, right? Because it is a numbers game, right? And we can generally estimate, all right, you need to hit this many people, this amount of times a month. We're going to measure it this way every 2 weeks, every 30 days, right? Every business is different, but we generally follow the same framework. Go High Level is just simply not going to do that. And we would, if it was still worth it for them, we would still be able to provide exponential value. Again, we compete with nobody and we integrate with everybody. So it depends on the situation.
Who did we build this platform for? Obviously, we built it for ourselves, but now we're realizing that other people, the problems that we solve for ourselves could be problems that other people are having in different industries. So who are those people? And then who are not the people? Who is this completely not for?
Another really great question. I will list a bunch of the professionals that this really does apply to. Before I do, anything that requires lead generation, anything that requires communication internally with your own company or externally with clients, right? We can come up with the architecture, design, and really structure anything to that regard. However, we really thrive with any solopreneur. We're looking to work with any solopreneur. If you are a yoga studio, you have a personal training, you do nails, anything like that is really great. We want to get into Shopify and live shopping. We have agents and brokers. That's really great, obviously, because we can give them hands-on experience from our perspective. Business brokers, commercial brokers, insurance agents, insurance brokers, any kind of service business. And at the same time, we can do retention, which you give us your existing list. We come up with a strategy of messaging to get more business out of your existing client base. Or you might say, look, I need new clients. All right, then we'll set up an organic system that systematically generates, again, the activity that leads to meetings and clients. You might say, you know what, I just want to get operations a lot better. So then we might look at your operations and say, look, you can streamline this and declutter around here. Or you could build a foundational database and then migrate your data little by little and have one uniform optimized database. So in reality, it's for anybody related to lead generation, operations within that lead generation, and just overall making sure that their system is adaptable, visible, manageable, and whatever context that they need to fit it into, it can apply to any of those audiences. Consultants are amazing. If anybody that uses Zoho or Salesforce, we want to talk to you. 100% we want to talk to you. Again, we are not here to compete with anyone. We know that we have a complete engine and a performance that's tied to a certain person that's going to want to do certain level of activity where they're not going to have to worry about relying on somebody. They can rely on their system that we build with them, and we make sure that they get the outcome that they want. Meaning, if I say to you, you have 10,000 leads, we want to get to this type of response rate, we're going to design something around that, and then we're going to hold each other to it to make sure it is attained. So that's what I would say. I would say that it applies to any of those sales professionals, sales coaches, anyone in that arena. Who's it not for? Anyone that has a very logistic heavy system. I don't feel that it's for anyone related to that. It's for people that maybe don't really have a baseline yet of activity that they've done that leads to a repeatable outcome enough, right? Because what happens is the most success comes from what's done the most. That has a high impact. It sounds simple, but it's the truth. And especially with AI, AI is a multiplier, right? So you don't want to multiply what's not working. That's probably one of the most dangerous things that you can do, right? So we do like to see visibility, and usually like a year in the business. That way, even if you have activity that didn't work, can probably get you something in the Nextier suite that can get you where you need to be. Our contact center is phenomenal, right? You might just need to get people on the phone. You might need to get your reps in. I would say if it's not for people, it would be, like I said, in logistics, anything that shies away and goes too far, right, to the left when it comes to logistics and operations. I would say that we really shine with retention and then organically building out a cold outreach system from start to finish, because cold outreach does require a build-to-suit database. It does require an organic, systematical approach. It does require me and the owner of the business on a weekly basis to meet as a team, because we're coming in like integration partners. right? We're committed to the success of executing, because you've demonstrated that you do something right on a high enough level where it works. So my job is to say, all right, how do we get more capabilities around that? But how do I multiply capacity? Right? How do I simply just do a lot more of whatever that company's doing? Because most of the time, that's the shortest cut, the shortcut, right? The path that gets the most results. It's not making things harder, right? You don't get points for that. So we aim to really declutter, streamline, systemize, right? We like humans at the head of AI. We don't look at AI like everybody else. We look at AI that at best it's going to be able to duplicate and generate workflows that are identical to human mechanical behavior, except they never get tired and you program their behavior, right? The real end game is for any company out there to work with us, right? That's why we're looking for early adopters and early clients, the right clients, to build with us and for them to have literally a digital workforce that makes their employees' lives better. That prevents people from getting fired. How about that? That prevents people from getting fired. That takes people that maybe are all over the place, declutters everything for them, right? And then now they're in charge of a department, which by the way, we do that too. We can come in, we can train your employee on how to look at AI in the first place, and then how to execute the AI, right? Which again, it's really more of oversight, human in the loop, and a collaborative co-pilot style of AI. That's how we look at AI, building that around a digital workforce, right? So for example, a list comes in, one agent's gonna say, all right, let me format this list, let me auto tag it, let me put it into batches or chunks, right? And then get it ready for a campaign. So now the agent's gonna skip trace as a co-pilot, which is gonna shorten that time, right? It's gonna declutter a lot of the stages that people typically have to go through, and it's gonna really make that compact for you, right? So then now you're waking up and it's like, all right, I have X amount of leads every day that are being put in. Then I'm able to execute those leads. I'm able to have a core execution model where I'm getting responses. The AI is then going to respond to that first response really strong. And then let's say it sends it a calendar invite, right? So that calendar invite, that stemmed from that workflow of the beginning agent preparing the data, right? Going in and finding you the best 2,000 leads for the day, making sure that they're skip traced, right? Trestle scored, and then plugged into a campaign with all mobiles, right? There's no landlines in there. That's preparation, right? So it's always about where we see the vision with AI in general, and it's really always about digital workforce and programming a digital workforce for every client. Ultimately, that's the end goal. Okay. So what kind of operator gets immediate value from Nextier in the first 30 days? It's a good question. The operator that has a database of leads that they can re-hit again, right? That's like the lowest hanging fruit. Also, an operator to get immediate value would be any type of real estate agent that does a build to suit, meaning they allow us to build them a foundational database of 20,000 records, manage it, clean it, and put them into an SMS campaign. That would be very valuable for real estate wholesalers, also very valuable for those operators. If you have an AI agency or consultancy, that would be really good too. CRM consultants, I would say. You can get a lot of value in the first 30 days.
Okay, if somebody remembered one thing about why Nextier exists, what should it be?
To really play the numbers game systematically over and over again. It's pretty boring what it is, but if someone remembered one thing, is that This is a machine that's meant to really play the numbers game that you need to play to be successful and generate a lot of the activity that converts into leads. People always focus on like the results, but it's more about the mathematical process that happens. And that's where we really focus on. It's not sexy, it's not something on Instagram, but for us it matters because we know that's what the core of the success is going to be rooted in if someone follows systematically playing the math behind it. And everybody's different. The math being played on someone who's doing nails or a personal trainer is not the same when someone's playing the math on real estate. So any numbers game, that's where you should really remember us for. That's what we want you to remember. Okay. So owning your lead generation, in practical terms, it really means that you're owning your system, but you're also owning all the logic and the workflow that's specific to you, right? And then all the machine learning that happens with it, that's owning your lead generation. And it's also controlling, right, organically. You see everything. You can add features. You can just do a lot of things that when you don't own it and you're a user, you're at the mercy of whoever the company that you're using the software with is. Which we like to aim for user to ownership, right? Nothing wrong with being a user, but a user should always lead to owning, right? And we have our white label option as well.
So give me an example, maybe like a timeline of how somebody would come in as a user and start with Nextier and then segue into ownership.
Let's say you are a real estate agent and you haven't really cold called that much. You have leads and you just don't have a system for executing those leads. Now you come to us, we take your list, we put it through a contactability report. We see what your data really looks like as far as contactability, meaning, do you have mobiles? Do you have a lot of landlines? Do you have disconnected numbers? We're going to look at all of that, right? Whatever that situation is, we're going to dig deep. Now, as time goes on, we create your first numbers game. So now we say, all right, here's your audience. Here's the persona of your audience, right? And now we're going to go and we're going to find 10,000 of this audience, right? And these 10,000 are going to be hit on any given month at least one time. It can be up to 10 times, all right? But now what happens is you're starting to get a lot of traction and responses, right? You're starting to see that it comes down to a nice even flow. You have their number, you have their mobile. Now they get stored into your database. Now you have people that you start to get conversations with and they tell you what they want to do. Start building your pipeline. Now it's a year later, right? You close the deal, even if it's a deal, one deal. Close the deal. I just made a really nice commission. I see the system working. I would love to resell this and not only be in real estate, but be in real estate tech. Right? Now they have the experience with the platform. They understand the platform philosophically. They see it. It's working. Now they become a brand ambassador. And now they have even say and influence, right? Because we want all of the white labels to do that. And they did it in a way where it was natural, wasn't forced on anybody, and they got to believe in it before they became owners. That's the path that we would like. We would also welcome people that skip that whole path, that understand the game, more seasoned people that, let's say agencies that already use Go High Level, we want to talk to you. You use Smarter Contact, we want to talk to you. And I'm not knocking any of these companies, but what I'm saying is we offer things on top of what they offer, and we put everything engineered together in one spot. And again, you're not a user, you're able to go from a user and own, and then have ownership to resell and have a lot of opportunity, which we plan on unleashing. How do the core pieces fit together? It all starts with data, right? That's the number one. Bad data, bad everything else. So we like to catch that from inception. So that really is the core piece of it. The next piece that would go on top of that is contactability, right? A lot of people, they do enrichment, in my opinion, in a very poor standard. They look for domains and emails. We have our own system where we go for the number first, and our system is SMS. So once we have data that's has contactability, it's numerically scored, right? Now we have mobiles, because they're labeled. Now the campaign preparation begins for SMS, right? Now the campaign preparation begins with the previewing, programming that initial message. After that, the natural law is anybody that responds, it automatically would just get pushed into the phone, the contact center. It's also, you can do multiple campaigns. So whatever the campaign was from Signal House, it would just be mapped to them, right? So all SMS campaigns would be, naturally the flow would go into the phone center, right? Where you would make the call, and the idea, our philosophy is getting people to a 15-minute meeting, right? To qualify, right, them first. And then agents really come into play where they're managing the workflows that we build with the company, right? So if you're a company, I'll just use us as an example. Our workflow is we're uploading raw CSVs from how we're sourcing the data, right? We're then transforming those CSVs into contactable leads, right? So now data becomes leads, right? But they become leads because of a standard that changed, not because we just made it up. There has to be a policy. So when something is skip traced, mobiles are identified. When something is scored, now we have a contactable lead fully, right? So contactability and data is really the core of it that allows for the outreach campaigns to then be as effective as possible. And then the agents are more of a co-piloting mechanism, right? To handle inbound responses quickly, right? So when the responses come in, let's say it makes a suggestion, you just press the button and then you tell it as you go on, this is not right, do it this way, do it that way, right? And then now what happens is you're programming back to the ownership, right? What makes a difference, now that you've done it for a year, you have your own dashboards, right? With all your numbers, all your data, you own it. You go to PropStream, they're using your data to sell it to huge hedge funds. They're selling it to anyone that wants it, which data, it's for sale. That's the most important. It's the new oil, right? Again, you have to ask yourself, in 10 years from now, do I want to own my systems? Do I want to own my database? Do I want to have a partner that gets it, right? Do I want to have more of an integration? Or do I want to be a user? And that's really what it comes down to. So back to the core question, how does it fit together? It's really, yeah, I would say it's really an orchestration.
Okay. So now what happens in a business once the system is live that wasn't possible before?
Situationally speaking, I would say it all comes down to visibility, right? I would say the majority of people, when the system goes live, it will have visibility and high impact workflows that are repeated over and over again that work in the best possible way. It'll be a reflection of what's working with what they're doing right now. We have integration partners that can handle tremendous enterprise capacity. And we engineered it where the heavy lifting is rooted in where it needs to be heavy lifting, which is orchestration, which is classifying the messaging, prioritizing the responses that come in. That's where our logic is rooted in the workflows, the execution. So when we do business with a company, the context of that company, it'll be mostly rooted in their capacity and mostly visibility. I would say that once it's live, those things just weren't possible before with their legacy systems. the compliance capacity, the messaging to be at 160 characters. There's a lot of things are possible because of how we engineered the system that a lot of companies they just don't ever think about at all, or they don't have really the passion or the expertise, which is the norm, to do all of this extra stuff, which we do. We do have that passion. The data engine really is a place where data can be imported, it can be formatted and standardized, it can be sorted and prioritized based off role, title, industry, property type. The most important part is finding out if you have a database that you submit to us, what that contactability score is, which we upload through our partners. That's going to give back an actual report with a lot of substance on how many mobiles you have, how many emails you have, which ones are good, which ones aren't. That'll give you a clear understanding. So the data engine really is everything that prepares and orchestrates data to get ready to be campaign ready. So outreach can be ready. Simply put, getting in contact with somebody is the simplest way to determine on the quality of a lead. So if I have all the wrong numbers or I have no visibility on the scoring of my mobiles and my labeling of my line types, then you're treating every number the same. So not only do you not have visibility, but it's hard to even be aware of anything when you don't have visibility. You just accept it like I did, but it's not acceptable. So that's why it's dead
Okay.
on arrival. So what kind of signals or enrichment actually change conversion rates? So signals are related to event triggers. For example, in real estate, if someone has a new lis pendens that was filed, that signal statistically and contextually leads to the odds and probability of somebody more than likely needing assistance, advisory on what to do, right? Enrichment changes conversion rates because it allows you to, on a large scale, have visibility of who you should be reaching out to first and why. And it's because you have a score of 80 to 100 and they're mobiles. If you didn't have that visibility, you just wouldn't be able to execute in the same way.
How does this data directly fuel campaigns and AI agents?
It fuels it because the AI and the campaigns have variables and instructions that they're following that are rooted in the data, right? So if the AI is responding to a message that came back, it's going to know, all right, this is an industry SIC code of this, which is related to plumbing, right? This is a messaging that's related to need more leads or more or better operations, right? That data is going to fuel the execution and the context that the AI operates in, and it's going to make it easier for that context. As opposed to if data is bad, the AI doesn't really know why you put in bad data. So it's going to be trying to execute off bad data, and it's probably going to hallucinate and do things that give you bigger problems than bad data. It's really fundamentals. It's like blocking and tackling. Great data, executable data, insight data that has clear boundaries on, all right, this is related to campaigns and the lead, right? Or this is related to phone calls and the leads, right? Data has to be merged at certain points because there's different stages. So those different stages on what data is in that stage, it's going to fuel the AI contextually in that stage. So the data is rooted in, it's going to come down to how the AI understands, executes, and how visible everything is for the person that's operating the system.
All right. So now, what about the campaign wizard?
Yes, great question. So the campaign wizard, think of it like you're programming the frequency and the time that you want to send out messaging to. right? So you might have a group of people that are retention, right? You don't want to blast them because you don't need to get their contact information right away, right? So let's say you give me a list and car dealerships send me 10,000 people that bought cars, right? That's perfect because now I can load it into the campaign wizard. I can say, look, we're going to hit these people with this frequency. We have their number. First, we're going to do a light opt-in, reminding them that they bought cars with us. And do they mind if we send them specials? Do we mind if we send them industry information? So the campaign wizard allows you to say, all right, let me program the best approach when it comes to cadence, frequency, the messaging, and it's typically a more spread out process and more strategic. And typically, when it's follow ups or retention based, or getting more out of your existing client base. Not that it's not relevant to cold, it is, but cold, we tend to do the blast because we want to get their information and get the contact first.
What problem does the campaign wizard solve that manual outreach cannot?
Simply programming consistency. That's really the root of where AI shines right now. It's really automated execution, which if you know how to tell it to execute, it's going to do that. It's automated
What make
consistency.
what makes our campaign logic different from basic sequences?
Basic sequences are really just the frequency that you plan on sending to somebody. Our campaigns have a lot of messaging logic that we support you with. We have a lot of contextual messaging that we design that's compliant that we work with our integration partners with. So I would say that sequences is just the raw form of scheduling the frequency of how often you want to drip somebody. With us, we add a lot of layers of compliance, of messaging and psychology behind the messaging, of generating inbound responses with curiosity and engagement.
Who gets the most leverage from this feature of Nextier?
That's a great question. People that have a baseline of doing something over and over again related to lead generation that works on a small level. That's what I would say. Because we can build so much on that. Like I can talk to a person and say, all right, what's your lead generation like? They show me their lead generation. I can come up with so many ideas based off their messaging and their approach that complements what they're doing. Because if they're doing something right, we just want to increase capacity and then we want to have variation. Right. So that would say that's the person, the guy who runs Facebook ads over and over again and gets to them okay, wants to do better. Right. We can definitely optimize that person the best.
Why
Yeah.
did we build our own phone system instead of integrating somebody like Ring Central?
Phone suite is very complementary in nature, meaning you want to push things to the phone through a workflow that's repeatable and predictable, and most importantly, intentional. When it comes to Ring Central, it simply doesn't have that capability and capacity. It's an enterprise platform that you can't customize anything. It's very expensive. Not only it's very expensive, and it really doesn't serve a core workflow. It's a standalone, decent phone system. Our phone system was built to suit the workflows that are core to what we're doing, which is SMS. We're leaning into SMS, which is by far the highest ROI, by far the highest response rate, by far the highest click-through rate. It's not close. There's no comparison, right? So what we did is we leaned into it as much as possible to the point where the fact of just being very knowledgeable with compliance and having the infrastructure on the back end without integration partners, that's probably a really big difference between our phone center and any other phone or contact dialer. Is the intention of the workflow complementing it? So when you are making calls, you're making very intentional, strategic calls with a natural workflow that flows into that contact center.
What does built for closers, not IT managers, actually mean day to day?
Bill for closers are just really simple. It's for people that when they get someone on the phone, they close them. And closing doesn't mean getting the deal. It means closing them to whatever the next step is. We like to start with 15-minute meetings. Why? They're quick and it forces you to be intentional. Then we try to get people to an hour meeting. Right? After we qualify them and we discover, all right, now let's do a strategy session. Then after a strategy session, we come back and say, listen, we're going to go back and make a proposal. We're going to outline your foundational database. We're going to outline who your ideal client profile is, what the audience is, what list we're going to start with, why, etc. IT managers really don't need to get people on the phone and make meetings. That's really what the point of that is. It's really meant, again, this is a lead generation platform. It has other use cases, but at its core, it's really to get a lot of leads and a lot of activity organically that over time really does compound into a fascinating machine.
Okay. How does call data loop back into follow-ups automatically?
The best way I can answer this is call data of any context, right, will be read, scanned, and then an auto dispo logic would be assigned to it, right? So if you are speaking to somebody in a meaningful level and it reads the conversation and takes the temperature of that conversation and spits out the keywords and summarizes it, and then it says, all right, auto next step, follow up with them, and then it plugs it into a date on the calendar. That's how I would say that call data, that data would loop back in to follow-ups automatically. So the difference between an AI agent and a chatbot is an AI agent is really a set of instructions that typically does a repeated task over and over again. It's either part of an orchestration layer or it could be a strict browser-based instruction. Let me give you a couple of examples. An AI agent with Perplexity in the browser would be something like, go find me the top 100 plumbers inside of Google locally right now that I can call, format in JSON. That way I can scrape and put the data into my CRM, right? That agent programming that exact workflow with the parameters, the functions, that agent would just carry that out, right, within a defined time frame or every day, right? Some agents do things daily. You got to assign a schedule to it. A chatbot is very customer service driven. I would say that a chatbot is for a website. When someone goes on and they have questions, it typically will draw from a knowledge base, like an FAQ base, right? It's very non-conversational, right? It's very next steppy, like do this and then it'll give you, it gets to the next step. It's very frustrating, chatbots. They do have a lot of use cases. They are just very frustrating. If we were to make chatbots for a client, we do recommend having a team, even if it's outsourced. This is something you could go cheap on and have the human interfere to get you people that are complaining or looking for help.
What role should businesses automate first and why?
That's a great question. Obviously, it depends on the business. Every business is different, but there are core things that should be. And what I would say is you really want to check all your processes, all your SOPs, which we do that too, right? Has nothing to do with money or what you're bringing in. We don't care about that, right? We care about what are your processes, who is responsible for overseeing them, right? What processes lead to business, meaning what's the shortest road, right? Whatever processes you have, obviously some of them or one of them is going to lead to business. So whatever that is, we need to find that out and really work on exponentially increasing capacity. right? That I would say the biggest that's centric to everybody is what do you do really well? What effect does it have? Who's responsible for it? Who oversees it? Right? How do we declutter that area around it? Right? So, for example, next year, right? We know that uploading lists, we know that skip tracing, we know that campaigns, SMS. We know all three of those things are very cluttery, right? But on their own, they're very isolated and fragmented, right? So that's why we took that process and we streamlined it. Now we have data, it gets uploaded, it's chunked into a certain amount, X amount. We can then batch and skip trace up to 2000. There's structure there. So that's really where you should start is in the things that are done very well. That capacity, if it's increased, would have a very material change on the business.
Okay, so where do people mess this up the most when they try to use AI?
That's a great question. I would say strategies that don't really work well and that you're not really intimate with. So you might try to use AI in something that's a new lead channel or a new outreach channel that you're just not really contextually experienced in. And what happens is you start to try to automate things that fundamentally that you don't really internalize manually. And that causes a lot of confusion. So I would say not being intimately familiar and have visibility, right, on what you do repetitively, that's where the biggest mistakes are made. We don't really like to replace anything. If we were to replace, it would probably be in the area of a smarter contact. It would probably be in the area of launch control. And it's nothing against the functionality or the execution of these companies. It has to do with they're too big by now. They aren't really deep into the layers of logic that go on top of the machinery, which that's the bulk of the value, really. The capacity of the machine and the capabilities obviously matters. But what having an integration partner that actually helps you with the messaging, helps you get the campaigns registered, meets with you weekly to discuss list cleaning. No one's doing it. No one has our, and I know you're probably, how do I know this? I know because I've interviewed all of them. The reason why it scores that contactability is because it makes it machine learning compatible immediately. As soon as you score something legitimately, not just put a score on something for fun, as soon as you score something, you automatically have a supportively machine learning system. So that's what we don't look to replace things, we look to complement them and make them better.
What's the minimum setup needed to see an ROI?
In each area, if you're looking for an ROI in data, B2B search, Apollo enrichment, the skip tracing, the Lucy engine, and the lead lab, which is an assessment of your existing lists, that alone can get a tremendous ROI, whether it's for the skip tracing being flexible in pricing, whether it's the import of the data that you have being systematically broken down and executed and enriched. Across the board, you can get just compare it to whatever you're using. If you have a skip tracing service, compare it. They're telling you to send them a list in by email. If I build you a foundational database with just your existing data alone, and then I link it right to Tressel's scoring, your whole database gets a health up, an upgrade, because you're gonna know if it's just formatted right, is this not right? These people's numbers change. Getting responses and manufacturing them, stage one, stage two, taking those responses, maturing the data further by finding out what your audience wants to do, what they're about, what they like, what they don't want. And then from there, it should turn into consultative, value driven conversations. But it starts organically with manufacturing those responses. A solo operator would use this as a way to really build their personal brand. It would be more towards individual messaging, meaning, hey, I'm the owner of XYZ personal training. I'm inviting you to a free session. I would say a lot more personalization would go into a solopreneur. You have to be more personal and you have to share your journey more along the way, including in your messaging. I would say groups are more of a collaborative messaging. So you might have a situation where a group of three people trying to get private equity deals, and it's more collaborative in the messaging, meaning, hey, my partner tried to reach you. Hey, I'm from this department. You play more theater when it comes to the team being part of who's soliciting you as a whole, right? That's just generally speaking. Obviously,
Right.
you might have a chief revenue officer and a chief technology officer, right? And the in-house developer say, you know what? We want to get more revenue out of this. Can you help us design, right, from our existing database and talk it through the messaging that we would approach to this new feature that we have? And then again, we really do aim for a consultative approach. And the reason why, more than ever in today's world, there's just no absolutes. There just isn't. I'm not here to say Nextier is the best thing ever. It's the best thing ever when it's applied by the right people, but it's also the best thing ever when it works collaboratively with any system that I don't care what system it is. Someone tells me they're not changing their system. I'm going to say, all right, let me at least try to figure out a way to complement it. If I can't, I'll never call you again. It's really more of trying to find out what are you using as a tech stack? What don't you like? What do you like? What's working? What can we repeat? What can we add capacity dramatically to, exponentially to, that will have a material effect on revenue? And then a chief technology officer, he might work with me and say, I want new features. Can you do this for me? So again, we integrate with everything. There's nothing that we want to ever compete with.
Okay.
Even some of our competitors, they can still wind up their users capturing them. You might use PropStream
Yeah.
and just want to upload listen here, register campaigns without any aggravation, and have a coach like me to go over with you every week. Some 21-year-old kid that might make his day. It's all he needs. Who knows? Next year is especially powerful for these agencies, for these consultants, for these CRM partners because number one, our infrastructure when it comes to SMS is integrated with Signal House, right? That allows us to be compliant with any industry, HIPAA regulations. It allows us to be able to be interactive with who's getting our campaigns approved over at Signal House. They will help us and assist us, unlike Twilio. And at the same time, these consultants, CRMs, partners, these agencies can have unlimited amount of tenancy, right? Which is infrastructure. They can resell it as their own brand, right? We do offer white label for these partnerships, and they can have solutions that they don't have to outsource, right? If they have Zoho, if they have Salesforce, HubSpot, it'll just complement everything that they're already doing. So any of those consultants are really valuable because they can not only have the net benefit of having a solution for their clients, but they can own it too and say it's theirs.
How does that really affect their business model? How does that change things for them?
Number one, it gives them, so it changes their business model and it makes things much better for them because they have full control over the solution for lead generation. It's something that we can work with them on a case by case basis to make sure that whoever their client base is, it's even more relevant to them. We are dedicated to not only just sell it to them and say, oh, you own this. We are dedicated to being experts in their messaging and helping their clients as well. We want to make sure that our white label partners look at us as partners. So It really is ecosystem driven. It's just having another partner for them. It's having someone else that they can count on, and then having ownership and control of the platform for distribution. So to answer your question, make more money and also have more flexibility and control to offer their clients.
Beautiful. And then finally, how could somebody start off with Nextier without jumping straight into the full platform? Are there any entry level products that people are able to test things out with?
Yeah, we're gonna make one. Yes, that we are gonna back out a core product. It's probably gonna come with feedback from when we start getting in touch with more people that we want to make the product specifically for. But it would be related more to load a list, send the messaging to the list, inbound response handling, push it to a call. That's probably would be, and it would probably be on a small amount, let's say 1,000 at a clip that you can load in from your existing list. It's not final yet, but we are working on building, again, backing out something that just isolates a core workflow to make it very easy for anybody just to test it out. The hardest part of this system for competitors to replace is really the connection between skip tracing, enrichment, SMS, and then the phone being all in one workflow. Meaning you can go from each one, and each one is systematically operational for intention reasons, right? Like you're making a workflow graduate into the phone, right? Then you're making an SMS graduate into an email. So it's a lot of visibility and a lot of structure, and that's incredibly hard to replicate because it requires a lot of independent thinking and a lot of fast decision making. And most of these companies are backed by venture capital. The founders have little control over what's going on. They've already stabilized into the majority of their moat, and it's not hard. I'll give you an example. Cu- Customer service is one of them. Just speaking to somebody is one of them, right? Like having that element early on, that's why the first clients that we're looking to build with are so important because then we have to scale and get customer service. But in the beginning, dedication to every person and their process and their context, no one can replicate that. No company that I've met with can. They can barely sell me on what they have. They can barely have excitement for what they have. So
Right.
I don't see them replicating anything that we have in our system from an orchestration perspective. As AI gets cheaper and faster, Nextier is headed towards contextual engineering of workflows. So, what I mean by that is the majority of the value, even now, is really not in the AI. It's the actual input that we're putting into the AI, right? That can give us solutions that if we didn't have that 10,000 hours of manual input that we can put in there, it really, that's where the value is. The value is not in the AI. As it gets faster and cheaper, consultation and orchestration and system design, that's what the most important part of AI is. And you can't cheapen that. You can't really, it's so specific to the company. It's not something that you want to be cheap on. That's all I'm going to say.
As AI gets cheaper, faster, and smarter, is Nextier at risk of becoming obsolete?
That just makes it easier for me to apply context and consultations and actually allow me to scale even more. Like they're helping me, right? Because they came up with that architecture, and now it's where it's going to be applied to. So I feel that AI will get cheaper in a sense of the tools itself, the consultation and the strategies and the system design. That's not going to get cheaper. If anything, I feel that there'll be a lot of excess shaken out of that area. And that's where we really separate ourselves. It's about what the logic and the context is and dedication to that over time with our clients. So that's why I'm not worried about that. And the market's too big too. The TAM on it, it's too big. There's so many companies. I'm bewildered on how many businesses and how many types of companies there are. And most of them, if not all, need lead generation of some sort. So what we're building long term that people don't fully see yet is a full digital workforce orchestration model. Meaning we have departments that we set up. Each one of those departments have workflows, and then each one of those workflows are fully managed by the AI in full orchestration and autonomy. That's what we're building for the long term that people don't see yet, and that's just because AI isn't there yet. But we want to be there when it is there. So that's why everything we do is built for that now.